Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Angus and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course the king of all, those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Best I've ever had. Probably be the best you ever have as well. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call, find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in everybody listening in on all of our network affiliates and our independents from coast to coast. Everybody watching on television, thanks for doing that. And everybody streaming, thanks for doing that as well. And by the way, our friends over at Vacation Buddies are giving away a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas or in Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri. If you can answer this very simple trivia question, which of these NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Is it A, Magic Johnson, B, Larry Bird, C, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or D, Michael Jordan? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Vegas, Orlando, or in Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to that very simple trivia question, if so, call 888-576-5777. Call now. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it right from the top with college football. I love college football. College football is one of my favorite things of all time. All right, so we've obviously had a lot going on in the college football world. And imagine, for the first time ever, Indiana University has cracked the top 5. Actually, they're ranked number 3. Of course, they set an Associated Press top 25 record by doing so. And of course, Texas even rejoins the rankings as well. But let's get back to this whole thing. I mean, look, there's a lot of good stuff coming out here. And let's face it, Indiana climbed to number 3 in the AP top 25, scoring its highest ranking in poll history thanks to their very, very handily win last Saturday against Oregon, which I have to tell you, a lot of people actually had that one. Oregon they've been playing very well, but a lot of people feel that Indiana had lost in the title game or the college football playoffs against Notre Dame in the previous season, and they got pounded by those people over in Columbus, Ohio, by Ohio State. And of course, we say it that way because we can. Anyway, they had a couple of real bad losses there, and this was a really nice road win for Indiana, probably the biggest one in a very, very long time for the boys in Bloomington. I went to school right up the road in West Lafayette, it's a little odd that I'm sort of rooting for them, but it's the same school system. In case you don't know, Purdue University and Indiana University are both from the Indiana State school system. 2 very, very good schools, unlike some of the others that are tied with the state system, but those are the 2 flags. Anyway, so, I mean, listen, there was a slew of Week 7 losses by ranked teams that also made room for 5 rivals in the pool. As a matter of fact, the most turnover in a regular season poll since the last few years, put it that way. So among the entrants are number 20, USC, number 21, Texas, who went from the preseason number 1 to unranked last week, that being Texas. I mean, big drops. Let's face it, Oregon dropped from where they were to number 8, their lowest ranking in 20 polls. And number 14, Oklahoma, plunged 8 spots after its loss in the Red River rivalry. Boy, say that one 5 times fast. You know, it's funny, folks. If you don't know, in the broadcast world, for broadcasters to get ready, they say red leather, yellow leather, as fast as possible, maybe 10 times or something like that. It's really hard. Try that. Red leather, yellow leather. All right, anyway, back to the rankings. So Ohio State and Miami remain in the other top 2 teams, of course, 1 and 2, while number 4, Texas A&M, and number 5, Ole Miss, traded places after their respective wins over Florida and Washington State. I would argue that Texas A&M had a better win than Ole Miss did, but that's basically your top 5. And, of course, Alabama jumped up 2 to number 6. So the top games ahead are the things that we really should be looking at here. So think about this. You've got number 5, Ole Miss, at number 9, Georgia. That's coming up. And that's a chance to really shape things and move them along in the top 5, so to say. Other games coming up are Alabama, number 6, and number 11, Tennessee. So Alabama travels to Tennessee. And, of course, let's face it, we'll put Bama's defense to the test in another SEC must-watch game as the Tide start to look more like the real thing. Number 13, Notre Dame, against Southern Cal. That one, of course, is usually the last game of the season thereabouts. And, of course, brings 2 teams that have played each other seemingly forever. And, of course, we give big props to our very dear friend and our college football analyst, Anthony Davis, the great Anthony Davis from USC. And AD is known as the Notre Dame Killer. Gotta like that. And you say why? Well, if you don't know what he's done, I think he scored about 12 touchdowns against him in one game. 350 odd all-purpose yards, 5-6 touchdowns, some crazy number. He's done some incredible things against those guys from South Bend, but that every year is a good game, and you never know. Even if the 2 teams are winless, it's always a good game. Another game upcoming is number 15, Brigham Young. They are undefeated, and against their local rival, the Utes from the University of Utah. And let's face it, the Utes have a chance to prove they're a better team than what they've been hammered at home by Texas Tech a few weeks ago. Look, they got pounded by Texas Tech, but Utah is a pretty good squad. You know, when you think of these games, you say, well, here, let's do this. Let's run over to the rankings real quick, the official rankings, because we haven't done that one yet. But there's a lot to unpack here, and we're going to start all the way from, well, I'll tell you what. See, this list, believe it or not, goes all the way down to number 136, right? And then you've got these winless teams down there. Let's find the lowest ranked 500 or better team. And so actually that would be Coastal Carolina at 120th. Up next for them is Appalachian State, and that's next Saturday at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And Missouri State is at 3-3 at 118. Louisiana Monroe 3-3 at 115. Why are we doing this? Because we can. And Central Michigan, not a bad squad at all. They are at 109 at 3-3. How about a first team above 500 and they're ranked below 100? That's New Mexico State. They're 3 wins and 2 losses, and they're going to be playing Liberty coming up. And Liberty has been a very good squad. Wyoming 3-3, Buffalo 3-3, 106, 105. Jacksonville State. Army is at 102, and Army has the best rushing year in and year out in college football. Florida Atlantic 3-3, Bowling Green. Western Michigan, here's a team that's above 500 at ranked number 99th. Kennesaw State 4-2. That's a pretty good 4-2. That Florida International on the 21st of October, and they're 4-2. Boston College, believe it or not, is at 1-5 with 3 less wins than Kennesaw, and they're actually ranked ahead of them. Delaware 3-2. Number 94. The Toledo Rockets, a little disappointing at 3-3 as we move up this wonderful list of teams. The men of Troy at number 87 at 4-2. Louisiana Tech, same thing at number 85. Wisconsin at 2-4. Boy, talk about a Wisconsin team that, man, they have really hit the skids. And you ask yourself, what in the world is going on? I think when Barry Alvarez left the Wisconsin program, as I understood it, it just seemed like the wheels completely come off. And I got to tell you, man, it doesn't get any easier. And those guys are going to be being Wisconsin, are going to be hosting at Camp Randall, Ohio State. And boy, that does not shape up to be a pretty game. But I'll tell you what, if Wisconsin could really look at this as their Super Bowl, they could really shake up the rankings and whatnot. And it might give a little legitimacy to Wisconsin in the first place. Hawaii is 5-2, and they're ranked 81st in America. App State, 80th at 4-2. Southern Miss, 4-2, and they're 77th. Yet my Purdue Boilermakers are 2-4 and 75th. But then again, they play tougher teams, generally speaking. I guess that's the answer to all this. Fresno State. There's an institution that I have to tell you is not necessarily in my opinion, is not a very challenging academic institution. Not at all. How about UCLA with two big wins, ranked number 70. Up next for them, they're hosting Maryland at the Rose Bowl, and that's next Saturday. Syracuse, a very good Syracuse at 3-3 at 69. UConn, they don't even register, 4-2. Moving up the ladder, Western Kentucky, how about those Hilltoppers? They're 5-1, yet they're ranked number 65th. We're going to end right there for the segment. We're going to come back here in just a few minutes, and we're going to jump into, obviously, the balance of this and the top 25. Take a better look at maybe what the college playoffs could actually look like. All right, don't go anywhere, folks. Lots more to come here on The Circus.
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America, with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door. store without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, and back here in fabulous Las Vegas in the AMP TV studios. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Folks, make sure you check them out. They've been with us since the very beginning. Thousands of shows they've been into this. All right, welcome back to everybody. Listening in over in the greater Atlanta market, waking up with us on WDJY 99.1 FM. Right down the road over in Auburn, Alabama, Columbus, Georgia, Montgomery, Alabama. WAUD, home of the Atlanta Braves, 1230 on the AM dial. Thanks for driving home with us. Our friends over in sunny Southern California, driving between Las Vegas, actually between Vegas and LA. If you're on Interstate 15, listening in on Highway Country Radio, thanks for joining us on that drive to and from Las Vegas. And that is 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM, home of the Vegas Golden Knights and the Las Vegas Raiders. Welcome into everybody else up and down the West Coast, out to Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the 49ers, Yankees, and the Alabama Crimson Tide. Plus, everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectrum, Wild, Charter, and independent cable affiliates. Thanks for joining us there, as well as on Hotel TV in select markets. And by the way, in the last segment, Vacation Buddies wanted to give you a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri. If you know the answer to their very simple trivia question, I'm going to repeat it in case you're just tuning in. Which of these four NBA superstars won 6 NBA titles? Was it A, Magic Johnson, B, Shaquille O'Neal, C, let's mix it up a little bit. I'm going to make this easy for you. A, Magic Johnson, B, Kobe Bryant, C, Kevin Garnett, or D, Michael Jordan? The answer is still the same, folks. If you know the answer, you know the answer. If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. And, of course, Vacation Buddies is not a part of this station. They're not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights in Vegas, Orlando, or Branson if you know the answer to that very, very simple trivia question. If so, again, 888-576-5777. Call now. All right. Now back to this. There's like a top 136, and you could pick that up from pick your favorite website, I suppose, but it all goes back to, I guess, how these teams are ranked. And I was going over the ones that were all the way from 136, which actually had either a better ranking or better value or something to the point. I guess what I'm after here is some of these schools are ranked a lot differently than, well, what they certainly could be ranked. Let's just kind of leave it like that. And we left off with Western Kentucky at number 65. At 5-1, they are the lowest ranked one-loss team in the FBS, which is a lot of BS in my opinion, if you know what I mean. And then as we look above them, Old Dominion, a very good 4-2 team at number 62. Florida, with 2 wins, 2 good wins, but 4 losses, they're at 58. Imagine that. And they're only 1 slot behind Northwestern, who just beat Penn State at number 57. San Diego State, 5-1 at 56. The James Madison Dukes. Now, folks, if you don't know anything about these guys, you should probably look into them. If you're in the betting world, this is a very, very good squad. Now, they have a very good opponent in Old Dominion coming up. I mean, look, you can only play who's on your schedule. So James Madison at 5-1 is, so far, they are the best 5-1 team that's ranked below the top 50. Believe that one. Yeah, imagine that. Okay, Clemson 3-3, South Carolina 3-3, Minnesota 4-2. This is number 50, 51, 52. Penn State is 3-3, and they are number 49. They probably belong at number 70, in my opinion. Going down, Auburn 3-3, number 47. And I don't know what's going on, War Eagle, but 3-3 is not going to cut it. The Mean Green of North Texas, 4-2, arguably one of the best names in college football, or for any mascot or for any nickname for a squad. Houston, a very good Houston, 5-1 at number 38. How about Vegas? As much as I don't like those guys, they're undefeated, and they're the lowest ranked undefeated team at 6-0. They're number 36. And Navy, the Naval Academy, is at number 34, and they are 6-0 as well. So running through this, a very good Tulane team at 31 with only one loss. That's a real mind scrambler, I suppose. Nebraska 5-1, number 25. Now we get in the top 25. So Memphis is at number 23 at 6-0. Well, you can argue it either way. South Florida, number 24, 5-1. Nebraska cracks the top 25, number 5-1. Going up, Cincinnati with a couple of real nice wins. 5-1, they're ranked at number 22. Up next for them is at Oak State. Texas at 4-2 with their nice win against Oklahoma. They are now number 21. Up next for them is they're traveling over to Lexington to play Kentucky. Virginia, they dropped 2 slots to number 20, and they will host Washington State. What a weird matchup that is. So you got an ACC and a team that has a couple of former foes from the Pac-12 in the ACC. Imagine that one. All right, so they're ranked number 20. Number 19, up 2 slots from number 21 is Utah. Up next for them is that good BYU team that I mentioned before. And BYU is no joke. Boy, those boys can play defense. Dropping 2 slots to number 18 is Vanderbilt. Up next for them is LSU. They had the week off. Number 17, Notre Dame. They're 4-2. They jumped up 2 from 19 to 17. Up next for them is SC, as I mentioned previously. And USC is ranked right above them at number 16. They jump up 11 slots to occupy that number 16. So when I say jump up 11, that means in this top 136. I'm not talking about the top 25, right? Because this is the full ranking, all right? So they jump up 11, and of course they're playing in South Bend on Saturday. It's a night game carried over the Notre Dame Broadcasting Company's channel, I suppose. Oklahoma drops 8 slots to number 15. Up next for them is a trip down to South Carolina. We'll see how that one goes. Brigham Young, who we mentioned, they jump up 3 to number 14, and they are hosting Utah. That'll be a very, very good game. Up 1 slot to number 13 is LSU, and they're traveling to Nashville to play Vanderbilt. That's not going to be a cakewalk. Vanderbilt can get themselves right back in the conversation of the playoff if they can pull off a win against LSU. Missouri drops 1 slot. They are 5-1. And they had a very, very good game. It just came up a little bit short against Alabama, 27-24. They traveled to Auburn to play War Eagle, and this is an absolute must-win for Auburn. No question. Sorry, everybody that's listening on 1230. This is a must-win. You can't win this game. You got some real problems there. You're really going to have to think about tearing down from top all the way down, because there are some real issues over there. Auburn football is a hell of a lot better than what they've showed in the last 5-6 years. No question. Tennessee jumped up 2 slots to number 11, and they are traveling to Tuscaloosa for a nighttime game against the Tide. Georgia Tech jumped up 2 slots. They travel over to Durham to play a very pesky Duke team. So we'll see if Duke can knock off at home Georgia Tech, undefeated Georgia Tech. That'll be one heck of a game. And you see some defense played in that one for sure, folks. Now, Georgia jumps up 1 slot, and with their win, and on Saturday, They're hosting the Rebels of Ole Miss, and I think Georgia is in for a very big surprise when they play Ole Miss because, boy, those guys can play. Oregon, who dropped 5 slots, they are traveling all the way over to New Jersey to play Rutgers, and a very unpredictable Rutgers team, but I think Oregon's going to get well in this one, no question. As I mentioned, Ole Miss is, well, according to this poll, they're ranked number 7, but they're really, I guess, ranked number 5. It just depends on what poll you're talking about. Anyway, Ole Miss, of course, travels to Athens to play the Bulldogs of Georgia. Bama at number 6, they jump up 3 slots to go to, actually, they're hosting Tennessee. Again, I mentioned that one. Texas A&M up 1 slot to number 5, and they're traveling over to Fayetteville to play Pig Suey. Now, Texas Tech is ranked number 4. They jumped up 4 slots in a previous ranking. And as a matter of fact, they're traveling over to Tempe to play the Sun Devils. And that should be an easy win for Texas Tech. IU, Indiana, goes up a couple of slots. And they are going to be hosting Sparty in Bloomington. And that should be an easy win for Indiana. But, geez, you never know what's going on in the Big Ten. I mean, any team could beat any team at any given day. As a matter of fact, look what Penn State has done since they entered the Big Ten. They haven't won a national title. They haven't really won a whole heck of a lot. And really, it's just hurted them, in my opinion. They hurt themselves by joining the Big Ten because now they got to play tough games week in and week out despite the records. That doesn't really mean crap. Number 2 has remained unchanged, and that's Miami, and they're hosting the Cardinals of Louisville. And number 1, those guys from Columbus, travel to Camp Randall to play Wisconsin. And you never know. Wisconsin could upset those guys. You never know. It's highly doubtful. I'm thinking the score will be more like 51-10. All right, folks, back here in a few minutes on the Sports Circus. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors Players who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven, gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number.
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure to check out thesportscircus.com for our upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows, which could be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus a whole bunch of others. Also, make sure you check out the partners page at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great partners. One of those is our favorite, Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. And if you can't make it over there for some great food, check them out at alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. And you could pick yours up by Federal Express, believe it or not. And also, you could read all about the history of the creation of the Italian beef sandwich from 117 years ago. And Al's Beef was established in 1938. They are the original. They are the creators. All others are imitators. Check them out again at alsbeef.com. Of course, they always get the super applause and the extended applause. Boy, that's some great stuff. Folks, if you've never had it, I got to tell you, it is so incredibly good. We just did some television filming down there on last Friday, and I believe it was it Tuesday? Yeah, no, it was, let me think for a second. It was on Sunday. So Friday and Sunday, we were down there doing some television recording, and boy, that was a lot of fun. And the neighborhood's phenomenal. If you've never been over there, boy, it is really something. Lots of great food up and down the street, great culture, great vibe, and it's just one of those neighborhoods that you have to go to, if you know what I mean. All right, again, that's Chicago's Little Italy, folks, for everybody, if you're just tuning in. All right, now back to the college football dialogue. I mean, I'm looking at this and saying, all right, what is it going to look like? How are the playoffs shaping up? Because now we have essentially, 12 teams in this. And I would imagine at some point we're going to get to 16. And we really should be using a system that's very similar to what happens in the FCS, that Division II, because that has worked for years and years and years, and it's wonderful. I can't believe the college football championship game is so far down the road now. I mean, it's maddening to imagine. But if it were to start today, the lowest ranking game, believe it or not, it would actually have South Florida. That's right. South Florida at number 12, squaring off with number 5, Ole Miss. Imagine that matchup in a football playoff. And the winner to take on Texas A&M, who would be in the number 4 slot, and they would get the bye. But apparently, and this is what I don't really understand this one. When you look at the winner of this, you say, well, why in the world would they have to play Texas A&M? You'd think that they'd play maybe, I don't know, the number 1 ranked team, but that's not the case here. And the reason being is because the game after, it's Georgia number 9 and Oregon number 8. would square off, and the winner would play Ohio State. Now, I guess it's because you look at the average ranking for these teams. So you have basically it's 8.5. But then again, they're all going to be technically 8.5. But it's a 9 and an 8. Two teams that are, I guess, technically lower in an aggregate. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. But nonetheless, the winner of Georgia and Oregon would play those guys from Columbus, who get a bye as the first-ranked team. Now, in the lower half of the bracket, it would be number 11 currently, Tennessee, against number 6, Alabama, who, if I'm not mistaken, are playing each other this week. And the winner of that would have the right to play Indiana at number 3. So, honestly, I think Indiana's going to have their hands full with either of these SEC squads. And I think Ohio State would probably be able to roll through their game against the winner of who they play. And Texas A&M would have their hands full if they had to play Ole Miss. I think Ole Miss would find a way to really make an example out of Texas A&M. And at the bottom of the bracket, right now it's number 10 LSU against number 7 Texas Tech. So you got good defense against great offense. And for the winner in that one, they would have to play Miami. So honestly, I think Miami is, they're good, but I think they're a little bit overrated. Now, this next round of games, so Miami versus either LSU or Texas Tech, would be, I think that is the Sugar Bowl, if I'm not mistaken. The Rose Bowl would be Indiana against either Tennessee or Alabama, as I see it. The Orange Bowl would have Ohio State against either Georgia or Oregon. And then, of course, the Cotton Bowl would have Texas A&M with a home field advantage there against Ole Miss or Florida. So the Sugar Bowl would technically, I guess if it was LSU, it would certainly be advantage LSU because that's a home game for them because they played that in New Orleans in the first place. And the Rose Bowl, traditionally, of course, where the Big Ten would play their big game. And the Orange Bowl would be advantage Georgia because it's sort of, I wouldn't say a home game for them, but it's close enough. So that's how that would shape up. And it's a little confusing when you look at this. Indiana, Texas A&M would be top 4 seeds in the college football playoffs based on this Wink's top 25 rankings. Tennessee and South Florida would be back on of course, the proposed bracket, so to say. Ohio State and Miami would remain in the top 2 seeds as 1 and 2 in the AP poll with Indiana 3 and Texas A&M 4. So 3 ranked SEC games highlight the slate for next week, as I mentioned. LSU heads to Vanderbilt. Georgia hosts Ole Miss. Tennessee travels to Tuscaloosa. SC travels to South Bend to play Notre Dame. And, of course, this one being a home game for them. I mean, look, USC, I don't know which team is going to show up. That's the scary thing about them. And we know that those guys from South Bend have a hard time playing defense. I mean, this very well could be one of those 49-48 kind of games. Although the local team has won the last couple of games. And as a matter of fact, the last one, I think it was 49-35 about a year ago, nonetheless. But yeah, again, throw all the records and whatnot out the door because when those two teams play, anything could happen. I mean, look, over in the Big 12, an undefeated BYU takes on Utah. It's the 103rd face-off between those two, with Utah holding an overall advantage of 52, 30, and 4, with the other ones being unaccounted for. Now, also, I want you to think about this. We could possibly see a 2 to 3 loss SEC team depending on the circumstances. Now, these circumstances, I'm not really wild about it. I mean, look, Georgia Tech is in the picture. Think about this. Georgia Tech improved to 6-0 with their win of 35-20 against Va Tech in the last game back last Saturday. Now, the Jackets improved to number 12, their highest ranking since coming in at number 8 in the final poll about 11 years ago. And their quarterback, Haynes King, continues to play really well. He's 20 for 24, 213, a touchdown, and he also rushed for 60 yards, and that's not so bad in a couple of rushing scores, by the way. So King rushing yards were the third most on the roster behind their running back, Jamal Haynes, and that's not so bad. And Malachi Hosley, 129. I mean, look, there's a lot happening in college football that people don't talk about. And, you ask, what are the more important issues? I don't know. You have to look at that Alabama and Missouri after that real tight game. I mean, look, Missouri showed that they were good enough to be in the conversation. Alabama, of course, they won their third straight game, 27-24, but that was not contested in their brain. Oh, no, it was contested. No. Missouri, they were good enough to win this game. Alabama did improve to number 6. And that's the highest that they've been for, we'll call it 12, 13 months. We'll call it 13 months. And Missouri played a very, very good game and didn't fall far, dropping just a couple of slots, which makes a little bit of sense. So, again, the Tigers head to Auburn, as I mentioned, and we'll see what War Eagle can do. And I got to tell you that's going to be a night game down there. And Auburn desperately needs a win here, in my opinion. And this is really a must-win for both teams, but I think Auburn needs it more. So I guess the bigger question is, do the preseason polls really matter? Honestly, I don't think they matter. I really don't think they matter. I think it's horribly, horribly overstated. And just kind of like, number X jumps up this amount, number Y falls down to this amount. It doesn't really matter. They should really come out with these polls, in my opinion, on November 1st, because that makes the most sense. Even Texas Tech landing at number 7. Does any of this stuff really matter right now? You know what matters? The odds and the money. That's what matters. We're going to dive into that in the next segment, folks. Don't go anywhere. More college football. Back in a few.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Folks, make sure you check out the store at thesportscircus.com. Lots of great items, hats, hoodies, t-shirts, travel mugs, coffee mugs, mouse pads, pillows. Oh, shoot. There's coats and pants and all kinds of neat stuff, all with the Clever Sports Circus logo on them. And, of course, they are embroidered on all clothing material, all cloth material. The logo is embroidered. So really good craftsmanship, American-made products, all for the sportscircus.com. A shameless plug, of course, for the circus. Make sure you check it out, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody. TV and radio, you know you are. Everybody's streaming as well. All right, in the last few segments, it was the college football rankings as they stood, with Indiana climbing all the way to number 3 for the first time in school history in the AP poll. That's pretty good stuff. And also a little bit of shakeup, but not too much shakeup, if you know what I mean. So what really matters, as I said, the rankings are the rankings, whatnot. I think they should come out November 1st. That's my opinion, or the first week in November. But really what matters is not necessarily the preseason rankings. What matters is what? It is... Show me the money! It's the money, if you know what I mean. Yeah, that's right. So, going into this week's games, which way is the money tilted? How do you follow the money? Sal the bookmaker can tell you all that stuff. Talk about myself, ironically, in this case, in the third person. But nonetheless, I've been handicapping games for a very, very, very long time, doing it quite effectively by following the money. I don't care about the injury report. I don't care about where they're playing. I don't care about who's with whose girl or whatever. None of that crap means anything. What matters is what the money wants. If you know how to follow the money, then you'll understand how to place these bets. But end of day, you've got every knucklehead on television and radio. Well, I'm going to pick this and I'm going to pick that. And that's their prerogative. They could do it. The problem is, a lot of these guesses that they're making are based off all these analytics, when at the end of the day, what seems to matter? Think about this. What matters, in my opinion, is what the money wants. That may sound a little cliche-ish, but the casino odds makers, boy, they are pretty darn good at this, aren't they? And now the question is, how will the bettors manipulate the opening line? The difference between the opening line and the closing line is all driven largely by better activity, right? And what are the better activity based on? All those analytics and the rumors and this, that, and the other. So the true line is the opening line in the first place. The closing line is the manipulated line by the bettors, in case you didn't know that. That's some really good information. So with that said, let's go to today's game. That's right, today's game, New Mexico State and Liberty. Liberty opens up -9.5, and it's closed, essentially, it's not closed yet, at 10.5 across the board. Big number, but the bettors have said, you know what, we think that Liberty is going to cover the touchdown and the field goal, right? So that's the 10 points. So we're going to go to 10.5, or the odds makers push it up 10.5. The bettors believe that they're going to cover the 9.5 in the first place, driving it up to 10. In some places, parlay cards Buckeyes lose. But New Mexico State plus 10.5, is that a good buy? That's the real question. Moving on, Arkansas State opens up plus 6 at South Alabama. That's right, plus 6. And the current line is 7.5 as a consensus. From Caesar's Palace has it at 7, MGM has it at 7, and Hard Rock has it at 7.5. So we'll just call it 7. Question is, will South Alabama cover the 7? All the online have it at 7.5. Will they cover it? Good question. Western Kentucky, a very good Western Kentucky team. They're 5-1 and their lowest ranked one-loss team in America in the FBS. And they open up at minus 8.5. The current line is 10.5. The casinos have it at 10. We'll just go with 10. Actually, Hard Rock has it at 10.5. So will they cover the 10? Let's just call it. Got to tell you, Western Kentucky is a very good squad. They're playing at home. They probably will. Delaware, the Blue Hens of Delaware, open up minus 2.5 at Jacksonville State. That's a pretty good Jacksonville State squad. And the current line is Jacksonville State plus 3 at the casinos. Jacksonville State with a field goal seems like a pretty good bet. But then again, I'm only giving you what the lines are. If you want information on these games from Sell the Bookmaker, info@thesportscircus.com. Info@thesportscircus.com. And then we could talk about what my ideas are. All right, moving on. UTEP, University of Texas El Paso, traveling to Sam Houston. And UTEP opens up plus 2.5. And the current line is UTEP minus 2.5. That's a 5-point swing. The bettors really believe that UTEP is going to pummel Sam Houston. You make the call on that one. The Golden Hurricanes of Tulsa travel to East Carolina. East Carolina opens up minus 15.5. Casinos have them at minus 17 and 17.5. We'll say 2 out of 3 are 17.5, so we'll go there. And the Tulsa Golden Hurricanes aren't that bad, but East Carolina is a pretty good squad. Louisville travels to Miami. Miami opens up minus 7.5. The line is a consensus at minus 13.5. It just keeps going up. Even the online ones have it at 14. But is Miami 2 touchdowns better than Louisville? Nebraska travels to Minneapolis to play the Golden Gophers. Nebraska opens up minus 5.5. The casinos have them at 8.5. We'll call it 8.5. 2 out of 3 are 8.5. Is Minnesota that bad of a team? No, not at all. I think Minnesota will get themselves possibly a straight-up win there. San Jose State travels to Utah State. That line opened up at 3.5, Utah State, and still minus 3.5 across the board. Carolina and Bill Belichick, the Fighting Belichicks, open up plus 12.5, and they're down to plus 10 at Cal. That one's going to be played over in Berkeley. I'm not so sure how Bill's team is going to travel. We'll see how that one goes. Eastern Michigan travels to Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio is minus 11.5 at the open, 13.5 at the casinos. And going forward, they should roll. UConn travels to Boston College in a very close in proximity game. BC opens up minus 2.5, and the line is down to 1.5, essentially across the board. I'm going to lay the 1.5 and go at Boston College. Georgia Tech travels to Durham to play the Duke Blue Devils. They open up at minus Georgia Tech minus 1.5, and it's up to plus 1.5. Duke is a pretty good home squad. They can run the points up, but they also play defense. This ought to be one game to watch. Don't even bet it, in my opinion. That's just one of those ones you should watch it, get a bowl of popcorn, have some fun. Central Michigan on Saturday travels to Bowling Green. Bowling Green opens up minus 5.5. The casinos have it at 3.5 now. They're thinking Central Michigan is going to cover the 3.5, and I think they will too. LSU travels to Nashville to play Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt opens up plus 3.5. The current line is Vanderbilt minus 2.5. That tells you what America thinks is going to happen. I'm kind of with them there. I think Vanderbilt gets themselves a win, and they'll probably win by a field goal and cover the line by the hook. Washington travels to Ann Arbor to pay a little bit of, maybe a little payback from years' games past. But Michigan opens up minus 9.5. The line is down to 6 at the casinos. 6.5. I'm not sure which way to go on this one. I think I'll just sit back and watch this one. Arizona travels to Houston to play a very pesky Houston Cougars team. That line opens up Houston minus 2.5, and it's down to 1.5 at the casinos. Again, no opinion on that one just yet. Baylor travels to Dallas to play TCU. Line opens up at 3. Current line is 3 as well. If you want information on that one, info@thesportscircus.com. We have a definite side on that. Army goes down to New Orleans to play Tulane, and that one, Tulane opens up minus 10.5. It's 9.5 across the board. We have an opinion on that one too, for sure. Oklahoma, the Paperclips. That's what it looks like anyway. Oklahoma travels to South Carolina, reeling from their last loss against Texas, and they open up minus 3.5 on the road, and they're at minus 5.5 across the board. Oklahoma in a lock. West Virginia travels to Central Florida. That's right, to play the Knights. But this ought to be a good game. West Virginia, you never know what you're going to get there. Casinos have them plus 7.5. Central Florida, are you a touchdown and a 2-point conversion better than West Virginia? I think you are. Kent State travels to Toledo, and just to get clobbered. Toledo should destroy Kent State, although it is technically an in-state rivalry. The line is 26.5. It opened up at 22.5. Toledo going away after a bad loss last week. Buffalo, a very good squad, minus 17 on the road at UMass. They ought to win by 50. Troy, the men of Troy, a pretty good squad, minus 4.5. They're minus 6 on the road at Louisiana Monroe. It's the men of Troy going away. Purdue travels to Evanston to play Northwestern. This could be a tough loss for Purdue over at Northwestern. The line's 3.5. I'd lay the 3.5. Central or Coastal Carolina is getting 8.5 at the open. They're up to 10.5 at App State, and that should be a field goal game. Northern Illinois traveling to the Bobcats of Ohio. Northern Illinois is plus 11.5. They're going to need every one of those. Old Domino and James Madison. James Madison is a 1.5 at open, 1.5 across the board. James Madison in a tight one, maybe a 30-28 type of game. Temple travels to Charlotte. Temple ought to destroy Charlotte. Opens up 12.5. It's at 11.5 there. Charlotte's going to need every one of those as well. SMU down to Clemson. Clemson opens up 11.5, and it's at 9.5 across. And that game should be a big win for Clemson. Michigan State travels to IU. IU opens up at minus 25.5, and they're up to minus 26.5. I'll take Sparty with 26.5. Texas State travels to the Thundering Herd of Marshall. 5.5, they're down to minus 3, and it should be a Texas State victory there. We're going to blow through these quickly. Akron, you'll lose to Ball State. Vegas will probably get their first loss at Boise State. Big line there. The Mean Green North Texas, likely to get upset by the Roadrunners of UTSA. Ole Miss in a tight one over Georgia. Texas A&M travels to Pig Suey. That should be Texas A&M in a nail-biter. I think Ohio State all over Wisconsin. Wyoming on the road, not very good. Traveling to the Air Force Academy, go with the Air Force there. Memphis travels to UAB. Memphis ought to roll there. Texas Tech ought to roll at Arizona State. Miss State runs into a roadblock down at the Swamp in Florida. Southern Miss with a win on the road against the Ragin' Cajuns. Washington State to be destroyed by Virginia. Oregon should clobber Rutgers. Georgia State should lose handily to Southern Georgia, or Georgia Southern that is. Hawaii in a loss likely to Colorado State in Colorado. Maryland will likely lose at the Rose Bowl. UCLA's on a roll. Penn State probably gets a win at Iowa because there's no offense being played in Iowa for the most part. Kentucky should lose at home to Texas. South Florida, big over Florida Atlantic, over Syracuse as I see this. And listen, folks, we've got just another couple seconds here. And it should be SC with an upset over Notre Dame. Tennessee with a loss at Alabama. Auburn, probably a bad one. Back here in 23 hours. So long, everyone.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.